Okay, guys, so this is my response to Mr. Beast's um, response to his allegations that the entire internet is talking about. So let's get into it.
Might influence, witnesses or any people they might interview or ex-employees. So it's a little unfortunate because I told them, okay, I'll wait till the investigation is over. I believe that was literally like a week before the dog pack video came out.
Notice how he's sitting back and, slouching like he's super relaxed and he has nothing to hide. This guy is, I could tell right through the video that there's something not right about this dude, and he deflects every single question coming to him and cannot take accountability for anything that is presented in this 2.5 hour interview.
And then, truthfully, just in transparency, I've never done one of these like big investigations before. And in my head, it was going to last like 2 or 3 weeks. It ended up taking a couple months. Apparently, combing through all the documents and doing all the interviews and everything just took way longer than I thought, because I've never had to bring in a top tier law firm and a former federal prosecutor and let them, do this really big thing. And so
this really big thing. And notice how he's smiling, he's smirking while he's speaking. It's a sign of nervousness. Although he's kicked back and relaxed, or looks relaxed, he's actually about to face some serious allegations, and he's going to deflect every single one of them. So that's my initial take. Like I said, I've watched this through already, but I'm going to react to it little by little.
So that kind of concluded a couple weeks ago when I put out the tweet of the follow-up. Like, that was the day I got the conclusion of it. And I was like, okay, in transparency, I'll throw this out. So up until that point, it was, I had told Quinn Emanuel that, to protect the integrity, I wouldn't do anything or engage in any of this drama. And then after that, like you said, a lot of stuff had come out between when the investigation started and when it ended. And I was just kind of like, whoa, I don't really know how to like hit this stuff. And I made like a little response video, but that's just kind of not my style, where I just kind of like put a lot of the information that I assume we're going to talk about here out. And it just felt weird. Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I've never been in a situation where people have thrown this much stuff at me, and I definitely could have handled it better. Like,
that's the only accountability that he takes in the entire video, is I could have handled it better. Yeah, that's true, because what people really wanted to hear was just you take accountability for everything you've done and just say, I shouldn't have did it. But he doesn't say that once throughout the video. So
I probably should have, like, the second I could have talked, like, I don't remember the exact date, 2 or 3 weeks ago when we put that report out, probably should have done something like this right then. If I could go back in time, I would. And yeah, that's kind of like the brain dump. And then here I am.
Yeah. So I was going to ask, you answered it towards the end, but like, do you regret that? Obviously.
Yeah. If I could go back in time, I would do what we're doing here. Cause I assume this is like the correct format. It's going to be a little bit more free flowing and natural. And I wouldn't have wasted so much time, like, trying to do a response. It's just not my thing. I like.
Yeah, it's not your thing because you don't care about your viewers and you don't care about your credibility. And it's very easy to just say, okay, I scammed a bunch of people and I shouldn't have did it. And I'm going to be trying to repay my debts to the people that believed in my scam. But no, we don't see that. We just see, it's no big deal.
So much better. Or I'm assuming, I mean, we just started, but I think I'm going to like so much better being asked the questions and answer it instead of just like sitting in a chair like this, answering it.
Okay. So initially I think this is the worst part about the interview. You see him, claiming that he's some king for being here and it's not his thing to respond by himself and this, that, and the other. This is super cringe. And you can just tell something is not right with Mr. Beast in this video.
It just feels a little more.
Now you can see the legs kicking up, so he's getting a little bit more nervous, acting comfortable, but you could tell he's preparing for the inevitable.
Natural.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean that definitely, that does line up obviously with what's happened, and it makes sense. And I definitely, I feel like, before talking to you, I definitely would imagine that you would regret have not making a response early.
Oh,
right?
100%.
Like that, because that you could have just immediately, if there is information to debunk Dogpack's his first video off the bat.
Yeah, which obviously had so much disinformation in it. If anyone saw Sagi's video or any of the newer videos now coming out, like, you would see so much. So much of it. So it's unfortunate that it happened on the back end of when I said I would not talk about or address drama and things. And I mean, there's obviously, should have done this sooner. Whoops. But hey, better late than never.
Whoops. Better late than never. No big deal.
Yeah. Did you think it would get this big?
No, I mean, truthfully, I thought like
scratching the eye, another nervous sign.
If you watch Soggy's video or any of these other videos that are coming out now showing all the discrepancies, I honestly thought a lot of people would find like the information proving the dishonesty earlier.
The Google.
Yeah.
Did you just hear that? You thought a lot of people would find the dishonesty of people earlier? I don't think a lot of people caught that one. That's huge.
Like, because a lot of this could have been, just figure out Google. A lot of this could, and now I also have to be clear. Like,
look at the hand gestures, trying to make you convinced in what he's saying. That's a big one too. Is he's using a lot of hand gestures. This is a nervous person.
I'm not perfect, and I'm not saying I've never done anything wrong, and you can't criticize me. Like, there are things I deserve criticism for, and I'm sure we'll get to some of those things in here. But there are a lot of things that are just not true, and on those things.
More deflection of people's claims right here. It's constant throughout this video where you're just going to see him constantly downplay everything he's done, and it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's whatever. Whoops, I'm not a bad guy. I'm not perfect.
It's like, I mean, we'll just get to it throughout this because I'm sure you're going to ask me the questions. But there's just a lot of disinformation that was easily proven. Like the big one that, I mean, videos with tens of millions of views collectively, claiming I called a guy Delaware because he committed a crime in Delaware. Like, that is not true. His name was just Delaware. I didn't, call him Delaware to make fun of him or anything. And I mean,
so he's using, one of the least criminal accusations against him to say, that one wasn't true. Okay, well, that's not the one really anyone cares about. Calling a guy Delaware, who cares? I mean, really, at the end of the day, people are interested in the crypto pump and dump scams, and the charity pump and dump scams with crypto and other things like that. Hiring, this guy Delaware, obviously, but not calling him Delaware. No one cares about that.
I'm sure you're gonna ask about it later, but there's literally. He was in a video before I hired him working at Best Buy wearing a name tag that said Delaware. And that was public information. And anyone could have saw that. Even during when that was getting shared a lot.
Notice how he's stuttering and he can't, and he's looking away. This is another sign of nervousness. And he can't come to grips with his words. He just, is trying to talk his way out of around a corner, basically.
A couple months ago. I even sent that to a couple of YouTubers. I was like, hey, just so you know, I didn't call him Delaware because of this messed up thing. That was just his name, and here's proof. Mm-hmm. And I guess I probably shouldn't say the name of the creators, but one of them literally just.
I think the smirks and the constant smiling and the whoops and that kind of stuff is really pissing people off. Because, dude, this is not a time to smile. A lot of people looked up to you and believed what you said to be true. As this charitable guy. But when you start scamming people inside the charities, I mean, that's huge allegations, and it's not something to be sitting comfortable, relaxing, and laughing and smirking about.
Said to me well, it's not really cool to like you or defend you right now, so I don't really care whether or not it's true, or I don't want to take the video down because then people are going to think I'm controlled opposition. I was like, whoa. And then also that same photo, are you going to throw some things on the screen for them?
Definitely.
Yeah, so throw it on the screen. That same photo, right after that second dog pack video, started to get traction on Reddit and saying hey, this is a lie. Jimmy didn't call him Delaware to make fun of him, committing a crime in Delaware. That's just his name. And it got taken down by the mods on r/YouTube drama. And that's when I realized anytime there's a post proving that I'm not evil, they were taking it down. So it was a little unfortunate too, because I wasn't saying anything. And then on Reddit, anytime something was proving that I wasn't evil or, contrarian to what everyone was saying, they were suppressing it or censoring it, not trying to sound extreme. So
you're saying it's like a echo chamber, which I mean, Reddit, r/YouTube drama is.
Yeah, I know, but it's unfortunate when there's a post with 10,000 upvotes claiming something false about you. And then everyone, then a couple people are like, wait, that's not true. Here's proof. And then they delete it every time. So then everyone's like, okay, well, then that must be true because they're also deleting the comments on that post that prove it's not. So then.
Constant deflection, constant talking his way around a corner. This is really nervous behavior, and people would just rather take accountability because you sound like you're trying way too hard.
Everyone should, then it's just like, now, again, I'm not trying to sound extreme, but it's just like, oh, you're censoring information. And then that paired with other YouTubers, when I would call them and share it with them, they'd just be like, well, I don't want to be Mr. Beast Glazer, so I don't really, they wouldn't say it this direct, but they would just essentially say like, I don't really care if it's true or not. I'm just going to say what other people say, like, sorry.
Do you have evidence of like people there being posts that existed and then didn't exist on Reddit that got?
Of course. Yeah, I can send you.
Yeah, if you send me anything,
you could throw it up on screen. I mean, that's not like a conspiracy theory. That's
of course. Yeah.
Just, we can find quite a few.
I'm not that good at using Google. So.
Yeah.
Still smirking, still smiling, still laughing it off. Okay, I was right. Perfect. I'm not the bad guy everyone thought because I, called the guy Delaware. No one cared about that one anyway.
I'll need you to help with that. Yeah. So to circle back to the Quinn Emanuel investigation, the big thing on the internet, on Twitter specifically, was that you found yourself to be innocent. Of course, you paid a law firm to find yourself innocent.
I saw those memes. Yeah.
There's the big meme. How would you respond to the allegation that the investigation was biased from the start?
Yeah.
Looking up into the air, that's another sign of nervousness. Can't look in someone's eyes. Has to think about what he's going to say. These are all signs of not being genuine in conversation. Look.
So,
when you're looking up into the air like that, you're thinking of a lie.
First off, to just set the foundation, I think a lot of people are saying, oh, of course, Jimmy did an internal investigation, found himself, they didn't find any wrongdoing, which is also not true, which I assume we'll go into that more later. They did find some wrongdoing, just not in regards to like the serious Ava allegation. So that's a, false truth. And then on top of that, it wasn't an internal investigation. It was an external investigation, which was clearly laid out in the things we showed.
Yeah, a third-party investigation.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, it is a little bit of a, like, a lot of people I saw were saying, like,
looking into the air, looking away from the interviewer.
You paid them. And it's like, well, yeah, top-tier lawyers and federal prosecutors don't work for free, so I have to pay them.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how to debunk that one. I mean, it just is what it is. But
it's all fun and games. I mean, come on.
But yeah, we hired Quinn Emanuel, which is one of the top law firms in the world. Like, I mean, it was very expensive, but I intentionally picked them because they have a reputation and they're not just going to destroy their entire business to be biased towards me. You know what I mean? And then it was led by a former federal prosecutor who did the whole thing. I mean, it was pretty intense. I mean, they did tons of interviews. I mean, transparent. They even like scanned my phone, dug through, like they have messages I sent to my girlfriend. And I'm like, why is this even relevant? They're like, I mean, if you want a thorough one and you want us to like be confident in what we're saying, we need to see everything. Like they went pretty hardcore on it, which is why it ended up taking a couple of months. Because truthfully, when I started this process, I didn't realize like how intense it was. But I gave them the reins to everything, and yeah, it took longer than I thought. But I don't know. I mean, is there any like how else do I?
Looking away from the interviewer again is showing a sign of not being genuine, not being truthful. He's nervous, he's lying, and we'll see.
I prove it besides. I mean, I think another thing that missing context people don't have is like, if they found anything illegal, they're obligated to report it to the police. Like this like that's how these things work when they do these investigations. It's not like they could be like, hey Jimmy, we found this illegal thing. We'll just sweep it under the rug.
But it's all right because you paid us.
Yeah, like.
Oh yeah, they can actually. That's what a lawyer that's on your side does. They sweep it under the rug and they try to defend your case and not the other's case. So I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, so it's just in every way. I just don't think people understand. Like it's it was obviously Quinn Emanuel. That's why we paid them, and it was pretty thorough. And
so I mean, those are two things that make sense, right? We just covered two back-to-back things that make sense. A, you waited a long time for the investigation, and B, you paid like a very reputable law firm, whatever, to investigate. Both of those things make sense logically from your perspective, but also optically from the outside looking in. For people who are just seeing the allegations, they're like, "Oh, this guy looks guilty."
Yeah,
he's building this big sort of law team, and he's not responding, and he's like it. So it's kind of bizarre and unfortunate because like it does make sense, like from a logical perspective.
I don't know why the interviewer is jumping on his side because it makes him feel more comfortable, and that's really not what you want to do as an interviewer. You want to be stern. You want to take no sides, and I don't like that about this interviewer.
Because there's two things I could do. I could do an internal investigation.
Yeah,
but that's
great idea.
because I don't want to audit myself.
Let your mom do it.
Yeah, exactly. I'll let my mom do it, or I could do an external one.
Also, the interviewer is laughing with Mr. Beast and act like he's having a good time and he believes him. So this is not a good style of interview because you want to be stern and you want Mr. Beast to be more nervous because he is guilty, in my opinion. So.
And that's what we did. And again, it's like, because I didn't have control over it. Obviously, if I did, I would have been like, bro, do this in 2 weeks so I can get this out there. Like, I didn't want it to take months, but I mean, that's part of an external investigation. You don't have control over it.
Now, would you consider, so you obviously regret the remaining silent. Would you consider that the third-party investigation as a whole, in looking back, would that have been, would you say that's a mistake?
No, I just think I would push back on, like, do I really have to be silent? Like, can I just like do this thing, like go clap back on some of these things, but like some of these things people were apparently talking to ex-employees or whatever, and so it just gets muddy because I really didn't want the integrity of the investigation to like be in question or anything. So
now tell me, as a viewer of this video, do you see that Mr. Beast is honest in what he's saying and constantly looking away, constantly jumbling his hands and stuttering, speaking basically nonsense? As a viewer, comment in the video below. Do you guys see him as being genuine? Because I don't. I think it's very, very, very obvious. For 1 minute, he hasn't been genuine.
I was like super paranoid where I was like, okay, this is what they said. I don't want to push back or anything. But yeah, obviously in hindsight, like, I mean, a lot of these things are just blatantly lies. Like if I just clap back instantly.
Look, the smiling, the smirking, a lot of these things are just blatantly lies. I mean, I don't think so, buddy.
People were just like, okay, cool, and moved on.
Would you consider making some details of the investigation that have yet to be seen public? Obviously, there's like a level of confidentiality that is required legally.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like, is there anything?
Well, that's the thing. Like, what we put out as much as we could, but I mean, obviously, they did dozens of interviews, including alleged people who were victims, and I mean, like I said, my message is my girlfriend. Like they gathered.
My message is my girlfriend. They got it all. Look at this guy. Holy crap.
A lot. So I don't really think I can. I mean, there's a lot of sensitive data and information in there.
What about like a just to back up your claims to their
but things on like how like they did it independently and they weren't biased. Like that side. I mean, I don't really know what people would want to see, but yeah, I mean, we can figure it out.
Just from what I know about like retainer contracts with lawyers and working with, third-party investigations, things like, which I don't have any experience with anything that big, obviously.
Yeah.
But maintaining a level of compliance, like, I mean, if there's like a retainer contract, something showing that, you shouldn't.
Now, this is where I'm ignorant. Like, I don't even know really what a retainer contract is, but
I mean, like
if there's any way I could, of course.
Like your third party saying, Jimmy, don't talk, like just basically giving credence to what you're saying, even more so, more evidence of what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, that would be something I'd have to like go talk to the team on. But,
yeah,
I mean,
that would.
Honestly, guys, I'm going to skip a little bit forward. I want to get to some of the more important allegations.
Yeah. Even if you don't say, well, this is the HR person, this is our contact.
I mean, because like back then, it's like, I mean, you had a problem, just tell me. There's like 5 of us.
That's great.
But yes,
but
still, I'm like. In this, I'm not trying to like deflect everything. Like, I mean, yes, obviously
you actually are. You deflected literally everything in this entire interview so far and all the way through the end because I've already watched it. So that's a complete lie. Let's hear that one more time.
That's great.
But yes, but still, I'm like, in this, I'm not trying to like deflect everything. Like, I mean, yes, obviously you should hire an actual HR person. Agreed.
That's good advice.
Yes.
That sounded nice. I do agree with that.
Shocker.
Yeah, crazy.
So condescending, so ignorant, in my opinion, to the people that have been scammed, to the people that looked up to him. Like, look at this face.
The no doesn't mean no policy that was criticized. That was crazy. I mean, when I first saw that, I was like, what the fuck?
Oh, you're answering for me. Let me answer.
Hold on. It was criticized.
Knee slapper. So funny. These allegations are hilarious. Oh my God. I have the best legal team in the world. Of course I'm going to beat it. But for people to see this kind of interview, they can see right through this guy. I mean, come on, dude.
Especially by Soggy recently of having been taken out of context. Can you explain what the no doesn't mean no policy
Yes.
was and why it was in the
Yes. So yeah. So it's funny, even the word like policy, it's like
It's funny.
So when we started hiring more people, I wrote this little, I almost like advice book just for a lot of employees, because I wasn't able to talk with people as much as I was early on. And one part of it that people, when this thing got leaked, and I wrote it with some other people in my company, it wasn't just me, but when this got leaked, there's a section that said no does not mean no. And then they just like cropped that out. And they're like, look, this is proof Jimmy's immoral and evil. When obviously, like you were saying, if you read the context below, it makes sense. The gist of why we had a section that said no does not mean no is because we do, I don't know if anyone's ever seen our videos, crazy things that have never been done before, right? No one's ever, on YouTube at least, buried themselves alive for 7 days. No one like tries to dangle an obstacle course from cranes. And it's like, the problem I kept running into early on when I was hiring people is I'd be like, hey, I want to do this. And then they would go call someone. So like, let's say the obstacle course in the sky where we had like, scroll through the videos.
Let's fast forward a little bit.
I mean, whether we're building schools in Africa or, giving electricity to remote villages, or we're giving clothes to people who don't have it, or we're feeding people. I mean, it does a lot of really good projects. Now, truthfully, that channel.
Yeah, but then you tarnish your reputation by, crypto pump and dump schemes and charity coins and NFTs that you ended up selling and claiming it was a small amount of money, which was actually $2 million. This guy, he does a lot of charities. I'm not going to say he doesn't, but why ruin your reputation by deflecting all of these allegations when you know that you took part in them?
Is struggling to get brand deals because of all the slander on it, because everyone, has convinced advertisers that the videos are fake and that it doesn't actually do philanthropy. And it's like, it does. And just like one little editing mistake on one of dozens of videos. Like, I mean, it's unfortunate because it's actually having a pretty severe impact on the charity and its image. And like, I don't know.
Boo-hoo.
Just unfortunate.
You think the impact is not obviously just the CGI hospital edit, but just the entire situation in general?
No, I mean, of course, the entire general situation, but no, after that hospital thing, a lot of people made videos saying Beast Philanthropy is fake and saying we fake our philanthropy, and it's specifically attacking it. And then, like that whole 100% of the revenue on the charity, on the channel is what we use to fund the charity. And that like spooked off a lot of people because they're like, oh, so this charity is not authentic. Because like, obviously people don't want to work with the charity that's not legit, which Beast Philanthropy is as legit as it gets. Just one little editing mistake, which I get. Now I'm sounding like I'm downplaying. I mean, it was just a mistake in edit.
You are downplaying it. He said, and now I'm sounding like I'm downplaying it, because you are, brother. You're downplaying every single allegation, and it's really agitating, honestly, for people.
Editing doesn't discredit all the projects Beast Philanthropy has done around the world, and the tens of thousands of lives it's changed. And I mean, yeah, it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, I would say that's a fair admission too, because it's like, and once again, optically, you're the guy who's talking about, spending 26 hours a day looking at data, and, every decision, every single frame that's in a video is like combed over. And then that is a mistake, obviously, that you're capable of making, your team is capable of making, and like the whole thing is capable of making. And people, they'll compare and contrast whether they know or not. Like, they think everything you're doing is 110% deliberate.
Yeah. Well, and that's the unfortunate part, because it's like,
the interviewer is glazing over Mr. Beast too much. He's, taking his side too much. And that's not the point of the interview. The point of the interview is not to take sides. It's just to ask questions and let this guy respond, and let everybody else see how nervous he is and what kind of deflections he puts, and if he takes accountability, right? And he hasn't. So bad interviewing.
If someone, again, just to be clear, the only reason anyone even knows is because we did BTS. So, I mean, but if that would have happened, 8 months ago, I would have just responded to a tweet saying my bad and just like re-edited it in YouTube editor and just added a voiceover, and it would have been fine. It's just now that, due to the circumstances, everyone's like, we finally got the proof. The philanthropy's fake. He's fake. And like, let's tear down his charity. And yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's just a silly editing mistake. Like, the VO we should just had VO over that clip just saying we didn't build this hospital. But it was also not even the whole point of the video. It's just like, if you
deflecting again, just say I'm sorry, it shouldn't have happened, and that's it. But he's deflecting and making it into a big thing, and it's showing that He has no remorse, right? He doesn't care. Sorry?
So you mentioned the behind the scenes.
Watch it. It's just a clip just saying we didn't build this hospital. But it was also not even the whole point of the video. It's just like, if you watch it, it's just a clip at the start. It's literally not even what the video is about.
Mm-hmm.
So
you mentioned the behind the scenes footage of that, specifically the hospital video in regard to your philanthropy channel. Would you be willing to or consider releasing like more detailed behind the scenes footage or a breakdown of that with the VO you're talking about? Or the editors who worked on it and sort of their thoughts and opinions or whatever, because they're the ones working on it, right? Like
on that video specifically.
Yeah, or just in general.
Yeah, but that one in specifically. I mean, we're owning up to it. I mean, I don't want to put them on blast publicly.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was.
There you go, buddy.
It was a silly little mistake. Obviously, we talked about how we could prevent it in the future, but I'm sure, shocker, at some point we're gonna have some other editing mishap over. Yeah. So I mean, that's not something I can't guarantee will ever happen.
It's so hard for this guy to take accountability. It's insane. He's so delusional and so big-headed. It's wild.
Yeah, but like we're doing our best to make sure it doesn't. But in general, I would love to do more behind the scenes. Like I think throughout all this, I think what has come.
It makes sense, right? Like I get your perspective. They just like to see someone who's honest and relatable.
I agree.
And like, you guys are really good at this insane Mr. Beast thing. But like you said, even with sort of talking about the allegations in the beginning, you didn't want to make a video where you're just sitting. It just feels cringe and awkward.
Yeah, no.
Like it makes sense.
Oh, no.
Right. Like I get your perspective and the outsider's perspective. It's cool to see, how it's not cool to see how angry people can get. But it is cool to see that there is a possible answer to those situations, like being super ethical and transparent in a way that nobody else has ever been before.
I agree.
Yeah, I feel like you could probably do that. So there's evidence that you put your previous employees, friends, whatever, controlled opposition in your challenge videos, such as the 100 boys versus 100 girls video.
Yeah.
Did you put them in that video or videos like that specifically to rig the outcome
of the challenge?
The challenge? And if so, do you think that's acceptable, Mr. Beast?
I know.
Okay, so
100 boys.
You start to see his knee shaking at this point because he knows he did. And look at his left knee right here. You can see it shaking right after this while he's asking the question.
Versus 100 girls video.
Yeah.
Did you put them in that video or videos like that specifically to rig the outcome
of the challenge?
The challenge? And if so, do you think that's acceptable, Mr. Beast?
I know. That one was a big one. Videos talking about my 100 boys versus 100 girls video in the last couple months. That one, people really talked about that one. So, yes, it
seems like he's already trying to deflect it before it even happens, and this is where he gets really nervous. In my opinion, that was the biggest nervous sign we've seen yet.
Doggy's video,
now he's itching. That's a sign of nervousness as well. The nerves, your nerve endings actually start to tingle, and he's starting to itch. So,
talked about this and uncovered it. I'm surprised more people didn't. Like my girlfriend. After that video,
I'm surprised more people didn't talk about it. I mean, super weird.
I literally went on a podcast and described this. So it's not even like this was hidden information. This has been out there.
You were in the video 100 girls versus 100 boys for $500,000.
Yes. On the day, everybody had to go for COVID tests. And a lot of people came, got their COVID tests, and they tested positive. And the girls somehow ended up with way too little contestants. So I got a call randomly from the studio, and they're like, we need a female. I'm like, well, I am a female. I guess I could do this 100-hour challenge.
Were you dating at the time?
Yes.
And did the others know you were dating Mr. Beast at the time?
They pretended that they didn't, but I think some of them caught on.
Did he move to the side of the circle and just check up on you?
Avoided eye contact at all costs.
But I mean, literally, like she said on the podcast, we had 100 boys, 100 girls. They're competing in a video. Leading up to the video, they're supposed to quarantine. This was years ago when, at the height of COVID.
Years ago. Deflecting it even more, downplaying it.
A lot of questions people have about my videos, like that in these recent things I've noticed. Usually the answer is like COVID, like why things aren't as like we would normally.
Oh, COVID is where he's putting his faults. It's all COVID.
Do it, but in this instance, they quarantined when they showed up to the studio. A couple people on both sides tested positive for COVID. We didn't have them all in a group. We isolated, tested, and so now. I'm stuck with a tough decision because we have all these people who just took off work for a week and took even more days off work to film this video. You know, a couple people on each side of the 100 girls, 100 boys tested positive for COVID. I can't go grab random people off the street because they haven't quarantined, right? And back then.
Such a long answer for a yes or no. You know, did you put controlled opposition in your videos? And he has to go on this entire rant trying to come up with a lie in his head.
I think COVID tests are better now, but back then, you know, it took like 2 days for the COVID test to be able to pick up whether or not you had COVID, something like that. Not a doctor. This isn't Joe Rogan. So I obviously, bro, no one knows that though, right? I could have just gone and grabbed random people off the street and it would have been fine. But I was trying to like be protective of the contestants. So my employees were routinely quarantining back then because, you know, in the studio and things like that, we didn't want an outbreak. So I just went to the employees who weren't working on the 100 girls versus 100 boys video and was like, hey, I don't want to cancel this video. Who wants to be in it? And so a couple of them volunteered, filled in the empty gaps. My girlfriend quarantined with me, so I threw her in there. And then we got the numbers up. I was good. The video's on. And yeah, they were competing for money like everyone else. Transparency. I'll look at the camera. No, they were not there to rig it. I did not tell them what to get out. I did not tell them what to do. They had their own free will. And yeah, I really didn't think too much of it. And, you know,
to be honest, it's cringe and it's baffling me how much this guy is deflecting and just can't own up to anything. I'm going to keep going until we find some
tons and tons and tons of that. Soggy has basically an hour and 27-minute video, and an hour of it is just flat out proving manipulation and lies and caused a lot of harm to my businesses. I mean, I've literally had people,
you poor thing,
pull out millions of dollars and then tell me it was directly because of his video. And don't worry, I instantly was like, can you send that in writing? So, you know, if I win a case or anything, I can directly point damages. No reason why.
You see this fucking imbecile just out for more money. What a money hungry idiot.
So, I mean,
there's the big breath, you know, how can I continue this lie? We still got 2.5 hours to go. This is getting tough.
Just unfortunate. Like, I don't want to be put in this situation, but probably going to have to. I mean, it's just, I mean, what do you do if
so he's talking about suing?
Someone's just spreading misinformation about you and, you know, just causing harm to your business and like getting it to the point where you might have to potentially fire people because it's costing you so much revenue. It's like, it's not fair to the people in my companies. You know what I mean? It's
you're poor people in the companies. It's your fault, buddy.
Just sad, you know. It's not a thing I take joy in, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So, yes.
They're not done drafting it up, but once they're done, more than likely, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. That's,
every law firm I've talked to, they're like, this would be the easiest win they've ever seen in their life. I mean, it's like crazy. I had one tell me like you could chop up all the evidence into like sue 3 separate times and win all 3 cases because you'd have enough for each. Like one person I was talking to, he's won like 67 out of his last 70 cases. And he's like, this would be literally the easiest case I've ever done.
So he's coming to address these allegations in this interview, right? But then he's claiming he's suing the guy who made the allegations. It's kind of wild, honestly, and won't admit to anything because he's suing the other guy. You get it? He cannot admit to this stuff because he's already suing for defamation. So admitting any wrongdoings would imply that he cannot sue the other guy because he was correct. So you're starting to see why he's doing this.
Like it's because there's just so much blatant, you know, misinformation and lies spread. Like, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, just go watch Sagi's video. Go look at his Twitter where he's redacted multiple ones of it. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't want to be in this position.
Now, what do you think? Do you think that there could be any sense of regret from that? I mean, optically, once again, there's a lot of things working against you on a constant basis because you're the biggest person in the world on YouTube and social media, and you're just crammed down people's throats algorithmically. Like if you decide to sue this man, even if he deserves it or not, which is like obviously up to you.
Well, I just want the slander and disinformation to stop. It would be the bigger reason. But
well, then you should have just took accountability for it, boss.
You're saying, when am I worried about how that would affect me PR wise?
Yeah, just like, what do you think?
I'm right now, I'm getting canceled because I'm not suing them because they're saying, well, Jimmy's not suing him. Therefore, there was truth, or Jimmy would be suing him. So at this point, I'm so big. It's kind of most scenarios are like either way. Like there's a vast negative for me. People are like, "Well, he's not going to sue because he's worried about discovery." No, I don't give a fuck. Why do I care? I'm here. This is discovery. You know what I mean? And that they just no matter what I do at this point, like there's just a large group of people that are just going to be unhappy, and that's just like a reality I have to be okay with, to be honest. As long as I'm talking like multiple Empire State Buildings worth of just trash, if you piled it up, is out of the ocean, and we're acting like that's not a crazy thing. If you just look at it in absolute terms, like 34 million, not 34,000 million pounds. You know how crazy that is?
Yeah, honestly, hats off for him cleaning the ocean. I appreciate that, brother. Now own up to the other things you've done so people can move on. Like, thank you for cleaning our oceans, boss.
And there's a couple things I want to say on this because I find it funny. It's like when I don't even know where I got this analogy from. When a firefighter, stops a building from burning down, you don't go, well, 100,000 buildings burned down today. You only stop one. What are you doing?
Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's I don't even know where that's a good analogy. That just popped in my head.
That's good.
B,
you're a genius, buddy. You're just a genius.
What was I actually going to say? Oh, the whole point though of Team C's, which we've said this multiple times publicly, same thing with Mark Rober, was to inspire millions of people around the world to be more conscious of these things and to like just care and be more aware, right? Like over 1,000 creators made videos on Team C's talking about the environment. I made a video that I believe has 100 million views. Mark Rober, all these other big creators, and all these people that look up to these creators saw a video of these creators talking positively about the environment. And like my thing I would say to them is like when people are like, "Oh, it only removed like half a day's worth of trash that's put into the ocean." How do you quantify the impact of those millions of people who got inspired to be more cognizant of these things and extrapolate that over the next decade? You know what I mean?
Like I said, hats off. I have no hate regarding that. That's amazing. So, if you're so charitable and if you're so down to earth and you care about people so much and you care about the environment so much, what's the need to lie about small allegations that were made? Just take ownership and people would be so much more respectful to you and, would care what you had to say way more. So
like no one seems to factor that in because it doesn't fit the agenda. I stand by Team C's. I think it was a phenomenal project. I think it did a lot of good. And I would challenge anyone else to try to remove 34. I mean, it wasn't me. It was the whole YouTube community. But like, if you have a better solution, go do it. But to me, 34 million pounds of trash out of the ocean plus, inspiring millions of people to be more cognizant of it. I think it's a win. So I'm actually glad I got to say this here because that is just something that I just feel like it's absurd, to be honest.
Yeah. Another topic in the same vein is the 100 Wells in Africa project.
Yeah.
In that video, part of the criticism for that video is that a few of the wells that you built were showed in different shots, or the same wells were showed in different shots.
Yeah.
That would imply to some people that you may not have built all 100.
Yeah.
Did you build 100 wells in Africa?
Yes. So you already know what I'm going to say. I mean, I would loop this in with the same thing as the hospital thing. Seems like I need to have someone who like QCs things before we upload it more hardcore. I need someone who literally goes frame by frame. Like we finish a video and then they spend like 3 days just going frame by frame, making sure there's no mess ups. Yeah, I
don't know if I believe him on that one, but let's move to the next one.
How do you know?
Yeah.
Literally, how do you know? I mean, and does it defeat the purpose if I tell you right now? I mean, I will, just because now everyone assumes the worst. So, but it's just that one's always been a crazy one to me every time I've seen those go viral. But I mean, now it sounds like weird to just list them off because it's like feels like I'm bragging. But I mean, the first one that pops to my head is like the Mark person that we gave $1 million that actually got slandered in a lot of this controversy. I knew that a lot of people who come into that kind of money typically go bankrupt. So I gave him a couple of $1,000s a month every month for like 4 or 5 years after that video. Never mentioned it publicly, just to help us transition to his new lifestyle.
Right.
That was an easy one. I mean, we did 800 surgeries off camera for blind. Never mentioned that. I'm bringing it up now because the controversy is making me.
Let's move on to the crypto allegations. I think it's somewhere around here.
They have to make money. So one of the ways you can eliminate child labor is you have to pay a living income. So there's a thing called living income reference, like taking the criticism and applying it. It's like, and just, yeah, like something like that. I'm very excited about because
yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's good. That's awesome. Cause it's like,
From high school, my mom, my videos were getting bigger. I needed more help. And so I walked in because I'm dumb. Like I probably should have gone on some site and hired people who had production experience, but instead I walked into my local Best Buy and I just hired multiple
on in regard to unsafe workplace conditions and a bunch of talk of, you know, files and videos and images and everything being sent to the documentaries and all this shit coming out in regard to the Beast Game show on Amazon. Yeah. What is the litigation that
well,
found against you?
You know how litigation is. Obviously, I'm not allowed to talk about it, which is a little
arms crossed now, which is a sign of nervousness.
There's a lot of things I want to say here, so this is good. Trying to think specifically on the lawsuit that. So for context, so people have 5 anonymous Beast Game employees, or not employees, 5 anonymous Beast Game contestants submitted a lawsuit, and they sent it to the press, but conveniently all the actual claims are redacted, blacked out, so you can't actually see it. And I'm not allowed to disclose what's behind those black lines. But Beast Games, we had 1,000 people. We were doing big stuff, and just like with my normal videos, I'm not trying to say like everything went great. Like one thing that happened when we were filming one part of Beast Games is, you remember CrowdStrike? That was pretty brutal. We had the most contestants of any game show in history together. That was weirdly, God hates me, during the CrowdStrike accident. And so as we're like eliminating hundreds of people and trying to get them home, airports all across America are down, hotel room keys aren't working, and that created a lot of confusion and that caused a lot of problems in our system.
I'm going to try to get to the crypto stuff.
I think it's something that's really important to note as well. People are going to be like, well, he's media trained. He's got a PR team. He's a genius. He's going to walk circles around you. He's going to manipulate you. He's going to he's the Antichrist.
He is.
He's the fucking devil horns guy. But I'm asking questions that my team and I wrote based on information that's publicly available. And the assumption is after this, you're going to send receipts to back up any additional questions we have in the post process. Yeah. A little bit about Ava Tyson and specifically the Shadman stuff. I know we talked about the third-party investigation, which found a lot of stuff, but there was just I didn't get any sort of evidence or anything like that. It's just, I think it's a lot of, a lot of this mistake.
Yeah, I think in my head is I just called you, was like, hey, off the top of my dome, here's a bunch of things that aren't true. And then you just said, hey, you probably did say something along the lines of,
or just like a Google Doc. I mean, because you didn't make me sign an NDA or anything.
Obviously did not press the buttons like I've been saying.
Okay. So here's the crypto allegations, guys. And this is where it gets funny because he ended up talking with Gary Vee on an interview, and Gary Vee told him to buy CryptoPunks. And Mr. Beast said on a later interview with Logan Paul that he picked up a bunch of punks, and especially the ones that he said he bought ones with cigarettes in their mouth, right? Which is an NFT. And these are $1 million NFTs, by the way. And he bought one with cigarettes in his mouth because he likes those ones. Then he says that his firm bought it for him. So he deflects that entirely because he says it wasn't him that pressed the button, but he did like the NFTs. So I don't know. I don't believe him at all on that he didn't buy the NFTs and he didn't press the buttons, because that means he doesn't have control of his wallet, which he did other pump and dump schemes with. So it's a tough
control of those trading decisions.
Yeah, these are good questions. Actually, I'm glad we're doing this follow-up thing so we can also just put all this stuff out there. So, yes, I did say that on the podcast, and I obviously did not press the buttons like I've been saying. I didn't pick what punks to buy or anything. Gary Vee, like I said on that podcast, called me and a bunch of other people, said crypto punks are the next big thing. I thought it was pretty crazy. But, the first thing I did right after that is just called the guy in charge of the fund who invested my money and it's other people's money as well, and just said, hey, Gary Vee seemed very passionate about these punks. You should look into it. If it makes sense, buy it. And so, he did the research, picked what punks to buy, bought them. I don't even truthfully know how to buy punks. I've never bought one, like me personally.
Okay.
Like I've said, I don't have access to that wallet. So, in other transparency, like that's kind of high level how it went. But, if he was like, oh, this is a shit investment, then he wouldn't have bought them. So
it would have been a great question from the interviewer to ask, okay, well, who was this guy in charge of the fund? And can we speak to him? Because that would really clear up this allegation here. Doesn't ask that question. Bad interview, honestly.
he was the one who was doing the buying and selling and managing things.
Okay. But you did make some decisions to buy or sell in the Wu-Tang Fund.
Well, I mean, yeah, I just told him, like, hey, Gary, like, in transparency, Gary called me about CryptoPunks and said they were cool. Look into it. I mean, so at the end of the day, bro, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know which punks to buy or which ones we should buy if it's a good investment. Like, that's why I, put the money in a fund and had professionals managing it.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, they're stupid as shit. I don't like any of the NFT stuff. I'm glad that's all kind of come and gone now. I like the newer era we're in. Okay, so next is the...
No one cares about your opinion, brother. You're the interviewer. No one wants to hear your opinion on the NFTs.
The super tweet, the super coin tweet.
Yeah, so this is a coin that he supposedly had a large portion in and, ended up tweeting, hey, super to the moon or something like that, and then ends up selling the coin a few hours later.
For context, on May 12th, 2021, you, Mr. Beast, tweeted in response to it was an Elio Trades tweet. There's a gym sitting there on the market at an eye-watering price set to explode during DeFi Summer 2.0. And then you responded by saying super ? With a crazy emoji.
Yep.
So why did you not disclose that you had a vested interest in the coin that you were tweeting about? Super ? Yeah, we'll start there.
Well, I replied to the tweet, so I did tweet it out, and I think a lot of people, that are just getting second hands of the story think I literally tweeted out, "Go buy super, go buy super." Yeah, the fund did hold some super, and I just saw that was the owner of super, the guy who made the coin, and I just went scrolling through Twitter, just replied super to his tweet. I did not tell people to buy super or anything. I just replied super. And I know the next thing where people are going to go, but this was a planned coordinated thing. It wasn't. It's not like I'm on the phone with the people managing the crypto fund going, hey, I'm about to reply super to this tweet. Like, I just was scrolling Twitter and I replied super. And like, I highly doubt anyone bought it because they saw me reply super to a tweet.
You do? With your 340 million subscribers and millions of followers on X, you doubt that anyone bought the coin because you tweeted super? Highly delusional. I bet you a lot of people bought it just because of that.
I mean, just to be honest.
And then he sells it a few hours later.
So I didn't think too much of it. Obviously, though, in hindsight, I mean, I could see how people might think that is a weird look optically. And so, like, I wouldn't do it. But, I mean, I really don't think it's that malicious. Like, if I
don't think it's that bad. I mean, it's whatever, like, oops, sorry.
Just flat out tweeted, I think super is the next big thing. Go buy it. Super, super. Like, I think this is a different conversation. That's the kind of stuff actual people do. You know what I mean? And like
scammers.
So I just don't. Yeah. So it was just interesting too because Coffee never said I was a scammer in his video. Yet there's so many comments on it.
I don't know about that one.
Just, a lot of people just want to drive. Whatever. People who don't.
There's a difference between a pump and dumper and a scammer, but they're both malicious and they both are very frowned upon. Pump and dumps are not really illegal. That's the only difference here. But it's very frowned upon and it's malicious.
Like me, like you said in the video, are not going to like me and they're, going to run with it. People who do like me are going to be like, oh, it was managed by a fund and Jimmy has answers for everything, which, I mean, it's not excuses. I literally was just a fund. I was not the one buying.
Jimmy has the answers for everything.
Or selling or anything. You know what I mean? I had other people managing it. So that's the honest answer. I just replied super and, I guess, if I could go back in time, I'd just not reply. I mean,
there you go, buddy. Take a little bit of an accountability, guys. I'm going to end the video here because I think I rest my case. This guy deflects everything, doesn't take accountability for nothing, downplays everything. I think he's lying in the interview a bunch, and I would love to hear your guys' opinions in the comments section below. What do you guys think? Was he lying? Was he telling the truth? How did the interview go out of 10? Do you think he defended his case very well, or do you think this guy is not very good at responding to questions and taking accountability? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I do more reaction videos. And I hope you guys have a blessed day. Like this video, and appreciate you guys for watching.